and welcome to the Breaking Muscle Podcast, where we sit down with some of the sharpest minds and strongest bodies in all of fitness to take you inside their mindset and philosophy. I am Pete Hitzeman, managing editor of BreakingMuscle.com, and back to host today's show is fan favorite Justin Lind. Most of the trainers and coaches you meet went straight into the fitness business after school, but bodyweight wizard Danny Kavadlo is the exception to that rule. He bounced around a dozen different jobs before beginning his career as a personal trainer at age 31 after the birth of his son. Since then, he's taken the industry by storm, finding success as a trainer and entrepreneur and authoring 5 books. His background and experience have given him a no-nonsense approach to fitness and life that is as refreshing as it is motivating. Danny understands that people don't just work out to get stronger, they work out to get better. He and Justin talk shop about his philosophy of simplicity, positivity, and accountability. He illustrates the danger of relying on motivation versus having the discipline and dedication to just do the work. Finally, he lays out why he views bodyweight training as the best overall program for physical improvement, why he won't call his clients athletes, and why we should celebrate the beautiful commonality in our pursuits of fitness.
Hey guys, welcome to the Breaking Muscle Podcast. I am here with Danny Kavadlo. This is Justin Lind. Danny, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Justin. I am really, really happy to be here. I really appreciate you reaching out to me, and I can't wait to get started and get into this.
Yeah, so we are in touch because I recently got a copy of Get Strong, your latest book, something that you co-authored with your brother Al, and was fortunate enough to get kind of, I guess not an advanced copy, but just a copy from Breaking Muscle here, and got to go through it, and I loved it. And afterwards, I thought that I had to reach out and speak to you in person. So I guess we'll get into some of the stuff about that book a bit later here. I like to bookend these podcast conversations with it's a little bit of a personal motto of mine. It's always something to work on, always something to celebrate, and it's kind of balancing that hunger to keep pushing forward with also some gratitude for everything that you have already accomplished and that you already have. So we'll start with kind of the always something to work on piece. So what is one thing for you that you're working on personally, be it in your fitness journey personally, and you can go as deep into sharing some of your personal story as you want with this?
Well, that's a really good question, and it deserves a deeper answer than maybe sometimes is given. You know, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of these podcasts and a lot of different interviews and have great conversations with a lot of great people. And some days I'm more technical, some days I'm more about the training, some days I'm more about the working out, and some days, like today, there's just a lot going on in my head and a lot that I'm thinking about. And to answer your question, one thing that I'm working on personally is the same thing I'm always working on personally, which is my own psyche. I feel like the decisions that we make in life, the people that we choose to surround ourselves with, the energy that we choose to surround ourselves with, is always changing. And I feel like in the last few years, I've gotten myself to a place where I'm surrounded by a lot more positive energy and a lot more positive people. There were times in my life, dark times or desperate times, strange times, where the people who were in my day-to-day world might not have been the best influences on me, not just in terms of action, but just in terms of energy, psychology, mentality. And I feel as though I'm in a place where these people can't touch me right now. I had this opportunity the other day. I ran into somebody I hadn't seen in about 3 years, and this was a particularly disturbing and alarming gentleman, and I tried to have a conversation with him, and I was completely repellent to him. He couldn't look at me, he couldn't talk at me, he turned away from me, and I was like, this is fantastic. I can't even have people this hostile or this crazy or this negative in my life. This was a particularly negative person who I had reached out to in the past, and now I was repulsive to him. So I'm continuing to work on my psyche, to surround myself with better people, with good people, with energy that's positive and brings forth good results. And I feel that when people surround themselves with energy that brings forth good results, these negative forces, they kind of just cease to exist in your world. They can't see you, they can't touch you. Maybe they could exist around you, but you don't even see them. It's like they're in a different dimension. And I feel like I'm getting to a point in my life with the work I'm doing on myself, not just with my training, but with trying to understand myself, be more self-aware, trying to understand life, where I'm getting to a place where psychically I'm feeling a lot better. I apologize if that answer was a little too hippie or a little too dippy for you, but this is just where my mind is at right now, man.
Absolutely not. I mean, that type of answer is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to speak to you, because one of the things that jumps out to me about everything that you and Al, for that matter, write and share and teach is that, you know, this whole fitness journey and goes so far beyond just the technical aspect of training, and that's one of the biggest things that most attracts me to your work. So I'm glad we're diving straight into that.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing, man. Is, you know, that technical aspect or that technique aspect, anyone can learn the science of exercise. Anybody can put through the experience. Anybody could spend their time and their energy learning the science of exercise. But there's something else in what we do. There's something more sublime. You know, there's a million people out there that can tell you about a push-up. Right. But what is it that we can help resonate with people within their own personal journeys that can get them up out of their chair and get them doing that push-up? And that's the element that I like to explore within this whole thing. I couldn't agree more. I feel like a fitness journey can be a gateway to a deeper type of self journey. It's, you know, getting someone up and out of their chair and falling in love with the physical practice is a great way to show them that, you know, to put the effort in, put the commitment in to do some self work can have benefits in so many broader areas than just the physical benefits. Absolutely. You know, when you train or work out or whatever, I don't like to get bogged down on semantics. I found a lot of people don't like to say work out now. They like to say, I'm training. Right. Call it what you will. When you're exerting, when you're training hard, when you're doing those pull-ups, when you're doing that sprint, whatever it is that you choose to do in your domain, you don't just get stronger. You don't just get healthier. Your muscles don't just get stronger and more attractive. Your heart doesn't just increase its capacity. You go through something psychologically. You feel better at the end. You put your body through stress. You go through a transformation, and you feel better after it's done. This is why people need to work out. Not so they could do 20 dead hang pull-ups in a row or deadlift 500 pounds. People need to work out because they will feel better all the time if they do it. I've never met anyone in my life who's done a workout and said, damn, I wish I didn't do that. I've met a lot of people who at the end of the day were like, shit, man, I wish I worked out this morning. I should have got to the gym. I should have got to the park at 8 a.m. like I planned to. No one ever has regretted doing a workout.
That is so true. Yeah, I love too that it's for a lot of people it's the very first thing that they've ever done to work hard that's going to have a benefit for themselves. And it's and just learning, it's almost the practice of just doing it for the purpose that it's this self-work is almost more important than any of the physical benefits that you could accomplish within that individual training session. But just the fact that you took the time and the effort to do something for yourself is almost more important.
I agree with what you're saying 100%, and I really want to zone in on your choice of words. You said work and you said hard. Now, working hard is something that we as individuals, it's something that we as a culture try to shy away from. You know, people don't want to work hard. You know, you used to have to walk somewhere. Now you drive a car somewhere. You used to have to go to the library. Now you Google something from your phone. You used to have to go to the store. Now you go on Amazon. Everything has become easier. Now, I'm not here to debate the virtues of technology, the positives versus the negatives, but I will say this as one big blanket statement. We're getting to a point societally where we do less work hard than we ever have done as a species in millennia, in thousands of years. And I think that it's a problem. I think it feels good to work hard. It feels good to push yourself physically. It feels good to push yourself mentally. It feels good to push yourself emotionally, because when you do something that's difficult and you walk through the fire and come out unbroken, or maybe even broken, you come out that much better for it because of your experience. And you know, somebody who has things easy, somebody who doesn't have to work hard, they're going to always aspire to mediocrity, because they're not going to know what it means to put forth the effort. People need to know what it means to put forth the effort. And what you reap from doing so is that much greater, because maybe you did have to suffer a little bit to achieve it.
Absolutely, yeah. And a fitness journey is kind of a micro version of how this applies to life. So getting people to understand how that hard work can benefit really teaches how it can apply in a broader way. And I love that that's something that you really value and try to communicate in everything that you offer, be it articles or books or just everything that you are teaching in person too.
You know, people have this tendency to really over-compartmentalize different things. It's like, okay, this is me when I'm in the gym. This is me when I'm at my job. This is me when I'm being a father. This is me when I'm being a neighbor. This is me when I'm being a friend. This is me when I'm doing a podcast. And yes, we do have to respond to certain people maybe differently than we would respond to others. For example, if I'm out hanging with my friends, I might talk to them slightly differently than I talk to my mom if I'm on the phone with her Saturday morning. But it's all versions of the real me, and it's all the same person happening. So when we really compartmentalize too much, we got problems. You know, we got to take these things, and to relate it to what you're saying, take this fitness journey, but like you said, put it in a life context, because essentially we're waking up every day. We all have the obstacles we got to face. We all got to do the damn things that we got to do, and we can take so much of this that applies to fitness and also apply it to life. It's not so separated. It's all the same shit, you know?
That's right. Yeah, it's so true. You know, it can be such a beautiful transformative thing when people really get onto a fitness journey in a big way. So, you know, we're getting into it a little bit, but I always like to ask, what's a little bit of your coaching philosophy? And as kind of a follow-up to that, are there any real formative moments that you feel like have shaped the way that you do things and what you try to convey?
Well, my philosophy is kind of based on a few things. Number one is simplicity. I always feel like the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And there are many, many people in the fitness world and the non-fitness world that like to make things very complicated. I like to strip down the complications. I don't like to have too many pens or unread envelopes sitting on my desk. I don't own too many pairs of shoes. I use the same fork and knife for everything that I eat. I like to keep things simple. And in my training, in my teaching, in my coaching, in my fitness philosophy, I like that simplicity. Essentially, 90% of the exercises that I do, or that the people who I train do, are going to fall into one of these categories: squat, push, pull, and then if we want to take it a little further, maybe flex, bend, extend. And that's it. Everything is going to fall into one of those broad categories. So I really feel like simplicity is very, very important. People confuse complicated with important. They want to put something on a spreadsheet or put something in a document, when really it can be experienced oftentimes better with just going through the motions yourself. So simplicity is number one. Positivity is number two. You know, we got to focus on the positive. We got to focus on what we're doing to get better. Because the truth is this: there's always going to be someone stronger than you, someone smarter than you, someone faster than you, someone who could do more pull-ups than you. I'm pretty good at pull-ups, but there's a lot of people that can do more than I can. But I don't want to focus on my shortcomings. I want to focus on my strengths, and then I want to embrace my shortcomings and see how I can help to improve them. So I want to be positive, whether it's the things that I'm good at or even the things that I'm not good at. And the last thing I would say in terms of my philosophy would be accountability. You know, we got to be accountable. The buck stops with you. You can't blame your wife, your husband. You can't blame your boss. You can't blame your kid. You can't blame the president of the United States. You can't blame anybody for what you're doing in your fitness. The buck stops with you. You have to get up and you have to put in the work. You know, I get a lot of different emails from people. I get a lot of different messages. I get a lot of people who reach out to me and they ask me a lot of questions. And I had one, I'm actually going to do a blog about it very, very soon. I had someone ask me recently, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay motivated, Danny? You know, you could do a muscle up, you could do a human flag. Wow, that's amazing. I envy your motivation. How do you stay motivated? How do you stay motivated? Well, the truth is, I don't always stay motivated. I do it anyway. You know, if we relied on our motivation alone to get a workout, then we're in dangerous waters over here. So it's not about being motivated, it's about being dedicated. Those mornings when I happen to wake up and I'm motivated, that's great. I'm going to hit the park hard. I'm going to kill it. But you know what? Those mornings when I wake up and I'm not motivated, guess what? I got to do it anyway. So it's not about motivation. We live in this hashtag generation, hashtag motivation, hashtag fit fam, hashtag gains, whatever, man. 90% of us wake up and we're not motivated this morning. Guess what? You still got to be dedicated. You show up, you do it anyway. Look, man, I brush my teeth every day. I'm not necessarily motivated to brush my teeth. I pay my bills every month. I'm not necessarily hashtag motivated to go pay my bills. The thing is, I'm dedicated and I'm a grown-up and I follow through on the things I say I'm going to follow through on. And if I say, hey, I'm working out this morning, if I wake up motivated and I'm not, I do it anyway. And that's what I'm saying is accountability. That's why people work so well with personal trainers. You know, if somebody knows they have an appointment and they know, oh, shit, Justin is waiting for me in the park at 6 a.m., I better be there. You're holding them accountable. Now, if left to their own devices, oftentimes people will not hold themselves accountable, and they will have no problem letting themselves down. But it's sometimes harder for them to let someone else down. So simplicity, positivity, accountability.
Beautiful. And those are kind of lessons that apply so much more broadly too, even beyond the technical aspects of what they might do on a day-to-day. Is that something that you really try to start bringing into your sessions or your training when you start working with someone immediately? Is just to immediately get them to be positive and focus on what they do have and what they have already accomplished, but then balancing that with that accountability.
Yeah, you know, when you're training with somebody, you need to walk that line of giving them what they want and giving them what they need. Now, as a trainer or a coach, you always have to be true to who you are. There are some people out there who are just straight up Biggest Loser style, and they're like, hey, get over here, give me those pull-ups. And they're that drill sergeant type of trainer. And that's great. If that works for them and they attract that type of person that works for, then I am thrilled, because I think everyone should be true to who they are and be themselves. For me, I'm just not that type of person. So I have to be me. I have to be simple. Take that any way you will. I have to be positive, and I have to hold people accountable. If it goes back to what we were talking about earlier on, if somebody wants someone to yell at them and berate them, I might not be the right trainer for them, and that's okay, because I got to be me. So it's like when I was saying earlier when we started this conversation, how when I focus on keeping positive forces in my life and not attracting the negative, then those negative people find me repellent. And if somebody wants a drill sergeant, they're probably going to find me repellent as a trainer. And that's totally cool. I hope they go out and find a trainer who's better for them than I can ever be. Because ultimately, everyone has to be true to themselves, and everybody has to find the person that they fit with, whether it's in their personal training or whether it's in their business or their clients or their romantic endeavors or their friendships or whoever. You've got to be true to you, and you've got to be honest with yourself about what your needs really are. And if your needs or the things that you're doing aren't really making you happy, then perhaps you need to reevaluate why you make the choices that you make.
Yeah, I love that, man. Being true to exactly what you are, and then you're going to attract the type of forces in your life that are going to support that.
You know, the greatest philosopher I've ever read, Popeye the Sailor Man, he says, "I am what I am." And, you know, that's all we could really be.
That's right. This makes me think of, you do a lot of training trainers now. That's kind of the next level beyond working with people one-on-one in their fitness journeys. And then you also do a lot of training of trainers now, both with the PCC certs, Progressive Calisthenics, and then also you've got a book written specifically to trainers, right? Everybody needs training.
This is correct.
How do you balance kind of communicating the things that are important to you that you have found work for you, but and also inspiring people to kind of find their own philosophy and be their own trainer?
I first just want to say thank you for asking really, really good questions. I appreciate it. You're really getting into some good stuff and giving me the opportunity to talk about some of these things that are so special and so important to me. But how did I get into training trainers is, you know, we talk about the fitness journey in terms of our development, but, you know, if you have a job doing this stuff like I do or like you do, you know, there's a career path that we take. And my career path is probably very, very different than the career path that many people have taken. I've had a lot of jobs in my life. I've been a security guard. I've been an exterminator. I played music for many, many years. Low-budget rock star, I call it. I've done production work. I've been a spring break MC. Everybody make some noise. You know, I've done all this stuff. And it wasn't until I was 31 years old and my son was born that I decided to be a personal trainer. Now that is later in life than a lot of people get into personal training. I had already had several careers when I decided to be a trainer. But like I said, I was doing production work, spring break emceeing, and essentially liquor promotions. And when my son was born, I just didn't want to make a living being Duff Man from The Simpsons, which is basically what I was. And not that there's anything wrong with that, it just my priorities changed. So I decided to be a personal trainer, and I was 31 at the time, and I just really sank into it. I gave it all the work that I had to give. I worked my ass off, like you should do with anything if you want to be successful at it. So the gym I started working at, New York Health and Racket Club on Astor Place in Manhattan, I started working there in 2006, and the way they do it is they give the personal trainers leads. Now these leads are essentially like a first workout. It's somebody joins the gym, they say to this person, hey, as part of your 1 year paid in full membership, you get included in your membership one personal training session. So the fitness manager says, okay, I got this free personal training session, which I did not get paid for, this free personal training session at 9 p.m. Monday. Who wants it? Danny wants it. I got this free personal training session you're not going to get paid for 6 a.m. Tuesday. Who wants it? Danny wants it. And I put myself in front of as many people as I possibly could. And I gave them all I had to give. I was true to myself. I gave them good workouts. And, you know, I learned about being a personal trainer. Being a personal trainer is not really what they teach you on the ACE certification or on the NASM test. Sure, it's something to be able to figure out someone's VO2 max or what these people tell you their maximum heart rate should be. But in reality, this stuff really has nothing to do with day-to-day personal training. Giving personal training means giving someone a workout that they can't do without you. It doesn't necessarily mean you're giving them manual resistance for everything or entering everything into an Excel spreadsheet as you stare at your iPad instead of staring at them. No, that's not what personal training is about. Giving someone a workout they can't do without you means that you being there is getting them to work harder than if you weren't there. Maybe it's your physical presence that helps them do that extra chin up on that dusty pull-up bar, or your belief in them, or your waking up at 4:30 in the morning to meet up with them at 5:30 gives them the gumption to bang out that extra rep. That's what giving them a workout they can't do without you means. Hell, maybe giving them a workout they can't do without you, maybe that just means that they showed up at the gym and did something. Because if you weren't there, they weren't going to show up at the gym, and they weren't going to do anything. And the other thing about personal training is building a relationship. I'm okay. I'm a pretty good trainer. There's a lot of good trainers out there. The people that have been training with me for 5 years or for 2 years or for 10 years are doing it because we have some type of relationship. So it's 2006. I'm working as a level 1 trainer at New York Health and Racket Club. Flash forward a few months. Now I'm the top level trainer. Now I'm the #1 trainer in the gym. And now the new personal training director says, hey, could you be the PT manager for this gym? So now this is where I first started training trainers. This is maybe 2007. Yeah, like a year into it. 2007. Now my job as fitness manager was to hire the trainers, to fire the trainers when I had to train the trainers, to teach them what it meant to be a personal trainer, to show them how to build a relationship, and of course, to show them how to do a workout that their client can't do without them. At the end of the day, we're in the results business, you know. I can talk about how important it is to have a relationship. I could talk about how important it is to be a salesman. But at the end of the day, you've got to give somebody the workouts too. Eventually, this company moved me to their biggest location, their flagship location on 6th Avenue and 23rd Street in New York City in the Chelsea area. And now I was overseeing a team of 38 trainers. I had a monthly budget of $205,000 of personal training I had to sell every month, $2.4 million a year, and I did it. And I set records back then. This was 2008 when I went to that gym. I left in 2010. The records I set have yet to be broken this day. So that was my experience training trainers, and this is what led me to Everybody Needs Training. When I started becoming a trainer, I was lucky that I had a lot of good mentors, And the best mentors I had were the ones that told me the stuff that wasn't in the ACE book or the NASM book or any of these certification or certifying bodies. So the experiences that I had on running a successful personal training business, $2.4 million a year in New York City, 38 trainers who were constantly rotating because people were leaving, people were quitting, people were getting hired, people were getting fired. There was a lot of turnover in the New York City fitness biz. I had so much information that I just wanted to share with trainers that had nothing to do with VO2 max, that had nothing to do with high-intensity interval training, but had to do with how do you do this job? How do you get in front of people and train them? And again, I've been accused of being very sales-oriented in that book, and I stand by it. The truth is this. If you want to have a career training people, you have to have a career training people. You can't, you can't make a living as a trainer unless people are paying you to train. But ultimately, you want to help people. I got into this business because I wanted to help people. And you can't help people if you don't have any clients. So you have to present your services in a way that people will sign on for personal training with you. So that was Everybody Needs Training, and that was a book for personal trainers by a personal trainer. You know, these books that are out there about personal training, 9 out of 10 of them were not written by trainers. You know, they were written by somebody with maybe a degree in exercise science, somebody who's maybe a consultant for a fitness team, but Everybody Needs Training is the real deal. It's the straight dope, straight from the source, from somebody who's done it all in this business that just wanted to take some of the experiences that I had and share them with others.
It's a great book. Is that your first one of the?
That is my first book.
Yeah, and there's 5 now.
There's 5 now. Everybody Needs Training. It's funny because it's such an important book for personal trainers, and so many trainers from all over the world have written to me and said, Danny, I love Everybody Needs Training. So many fitness managers from all over the world have written to me and said, Danny, I make every new hire that I hire read Everybody Needs Training. I even had a lawyer in Texas send me an email that said, Danny, I make all my new hires. He owned a law firm. He said, I make all my new hires at the law firm read Everybody Needs Training because this is a book about being good at your job. It's not just about personal training. It's about being good at your job. So after Everybody Needs Training, I wrote a book called Diamond Cut Abs because as good as Everybody Needs Training is, not that many people bought it. It's the personal trainers. Most people out there, they don't want to be a personal trainer. They want 6-pack abs. So I wrote Diamond Cut Abs. And this was really the book that was really about really diet and nutrition as much as it is about exercise. It's the abs book that I always wished I had growing up. You know, so much misinformation is perpetrated out there. You know, the myth of spot reduction of body fat, the myth that I can eat whatever I want and attain this type of look. Sometimes we have to use a little bit of discipline or restraint or willpower, and sometimes we don't. But it's important to just address these things. So that book was really the book that I needed to write. You know, one of the earliest books that I ever bought when I started working out when I was a kid was called The Complete Book of Abs. And I love that book. It's a great book. I read it cover to cover. I did the programs, you know, when I was like a kid. And I was like, okay, Diamond Cut Abs is if I wrote that book, this is how I would have done it. And then after that, I did Strength Rules. And Strength Rules is Danny's manifesto. Strength Rules, I wrote it during one of the most difficult times of my life, where it's like we were talking about before, working hard. You know, when you go through difficulty and you come out stronger because of it, that's real strength. So I talk about body weight strength as being such a pure form of strength training, because that's how I train most people, is body weight. Body weight strength, it's not just your ability to move a heavy object, but it's your ability to navigate yourself throughout the world. It's your tensile strength. It's your pound-for-pound strength. But then I realized physical strength is just a small part of the equation. That physical strength is compounded with emotional stability. That emotional stability is compounded with mental capacity. That mental capacity is compounded with who you are spiritually as a man or woman, as a citizen of the world, who you are in this universe. And Strength Rules is the book that really, when I was going through these changes in my life, and I had to summon strength from within, and I had to rise up and face things that were harder than I really thought I would ever have to face, and come out stronger, not in spite of, but because of these things. That's what Strength Rules is. And there's like 100 exercises in it too. You know, there's a lot more to it. And then, of course, I recently did 2 books with my brother, Al Kavadlo. And hey, Al Kavadlo, we're working out. And we did these 2 books. One of them was called Street Workout. Street Workout is the anthology of bodyweight training. It's the anthology of the street workout movement. It's got everything in it, from your squat to your pistol squat, from your push-up to your one-arm push-up and beyond, from your pull-up to your muscle-up, human flag, inversions. Every exercise in the street workout stratosphere is included in this book, Street Workout. And the photography in it, we assembled the photographs from all over the world that we did from traveling, doing this progressive calisthenics certification. So it really has a lot. And then we have a new one, Get Strong. We'll talk about that later.
Well, why don't we get into it now? I mean, it seems like a great time to get into it. So what were you guys trying to accomplish with Get Strong since Street Workout?
Well, like I said, Street Workout is the most comprehensive calisthenic bodyweight book I've certainly ever seen in my life. And one of the things that we sought to do with Street Out was really to have the definitive guide of exercises. It's almost like an encyclopedia.
Right.
One of the things that people have reached out to Al and myself before Street Workout and even after Street Workout was, hey, I love your work. I love the exercises. I love how you give us the tools to put together a workout. You give us the palette from which we can paint. And you give us this information. You know, it's like they say, teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. Give a man to fish, he'll give a man a fish, he'll eat for a meal. So what we always tried to do was give people these broad strokes that they can work with. But it turns out a lot of people are coming up to us and saying, hey, I love what you're doing, but you know what, man? I want you to give me a program. I want you to give me a template. So when we made Get Strong, I mean, between Al and myself, including Get Strong, we have 10 books together. And what we did with Get Strong is something that we didn't do with any of these other titles. We put together the definitive 16-week program. It's the ultimate bodyweight transformation program for gaining muscle and strength using nothing but progressive calisthenics. Now, I say that with a caveat, the 16-week program, because, as you know, as I know, as anyone who's ever done anything in their life knows, sometimes, even when we have the best plan in the world, there are times when we need to deviate from that plan. So even within this 16-week program, it's set up in 4 phases. Each phase is 4 weeks. At the end of each 4-week phase, there's a test. If you pass the test, you move on to the next phase. If you do not pass the test, then you go back and repeat the previous 2 weeks. So it's a 16-week transformation program. But look, somebody who buys this book, who wants to reap the rewards of ownership of this book and the programs contained within, I never met that person. They might need to deviate, so we included whatever deviations you may need. So you don't pass the phase 1 test, that's great. Now you repeat the last 2 weeks and then take the test again. So I'm not going to pretend that everybody moves exactly the same way, and we try to include that in the book. Also included in Get Strong is supplemental exercises. You know, we based this book on being as simple as possible, so the only equipment that you need is something to hang from and something to step up on, like a bench, and then the floor beneath your feet. Yeah, something nice and easy. But we did include some other exercises not in the program that you might choose to supplement your workout with. We also included some partner calisthenics exercises. And another fun thing is the bonus section of this book has 10 of the most popular articles that Al and I have ever written in our careers. But we revisited these articles, we rewrote these articles, and we put some author's notes, some hidden behind-the-scenes things about the articles. So we really think, I mean, Get Strong, we think it's the best thing that we've put out, so everyone needs to go and buy it right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to speak to you, because as a trainer that has a pretty big body weight and calisthenics focus, I loved the simplicity. So that's the first thing that jumped out at me. Just the way it's put together, it's so simple. You guys do a great job of explaining the key points to kind of ensure success when people go off and try these movements, if it's maybe the first time they've done them, while keeping it simple. So I think every movement is presented with 3 bullet points, and then there's a trainer talk section that, you know, you might go into a little bit of detail or talk about maybe some of the common pitfalls or something like that. So it's a one page full photo of you and Al in usually the beginning and the end range of a movement or something like that, and then three quick bullet points, and it's great detail with also great simplicity.
Thank you so much. We went through a lot of work to make it this simple. You know, there's a great quote from the country singer Dolly Parton. She goes, "It takes a lot of money for me to look this cheap." And that's how I feel about this book. It took a lot of work to make it so damn simple. And that simplicity is really, really key. It's an ongoing theme of the book. That's why it's so minimalistic in terms of equipment. It's completely uncomplicated. And we really wanted to focus on the simplicity. You know, we have a quote in the book from William of Ockham where he says, "It's vain to do with more what can be done with fewer." And that's taken from Occam's razor, which is a concept in science and philosophy, which basically means that among competing theories, the simplest explanation is the most likely to be true. It's like if I'm a cop, right? I'm a detective, and I'm investigating a murder. It's probably this person murdered that person, not some crazy conspiracy involving this intertwining web of things. It's the same thing why we feel like keeping it simple with the body weight training is the simplest means to an end. So we really went through painstaking lengths and many, many revisions so we could focus on only the most important attributes of every single exercise and not delve off into maybe some less important stuff. You know, sometimes when you give people too much information, it's confusing. So in some of my previous books, I've had exercise descriptions that were maybe 3 sentences, and I've also had exercise descriptions that were 2 pages long, 10 paragraphs long. So we really tried to take those and focus on the most important aspects and make it as easy to follow as we possibly could. And I think, based on the reception we've gotten, I think we've been very successful with it.
Yeah, it's something that really resonates with me because in both my day-to-day training, my contributions to breaking muscle, and just in everything in life, it's so easy to over explain and give people too much. And there's a Mark Twain quote that I like, which I guess is kind of similar to the Dolly Parton, when something like, "Forgive me for writing you such a long letter. I didn't have time to write you a short one."
Yeah.
In that it takes a lot to curate things down to only the essentials, and you guys have done a fantastic job of doing that. Not only in how you teach the movements, but also just how the program is laid out. It's such a great progression and all of that. And like you said in the bonus section too, I think there's so much value in that, because you get into some of the deeper, and I guess we could call them the esoteric sides of training, which
Sure.
goes back to some of the stuff that we spoke about in the beginning of this. Just all the other pieces of how a fitness journey can benefit your life outside of just the physical transformations. So it's so simple in how it lays out the technical aspects, and then it dives into some of the deeper and really beautiful things that can come. So it's a fantastic piece of work, man.
Well, thank you very much. I hope your listeners check it out, and if you do pick up the book, drop me a line. Hit me up. Let me know if you liked it. Let me know if it's working for you, because I always want to hear from everybody. I reply to every single person that reaches out to me in any medium, because I want to hear what everybody says. It's
funny that you said that. I noticed in preparing for this, I was on your coach Facebook page, and there's a little thing at the top that says 100% compliance. Usually within a couple of days. Like, I didn't know that Facebook did that, but I guess when it's a business page, they report on how well you are at, or not 100% compliance, I'm sorry, 100% response rate.
If somebody takes the time to reach out to me and say, "Hey, Danny, I'm working on this pull-up variation here, and I want to know your opinion about this type of grip or that type of modality," or whatever it might be, there's a lot of people in this world that one can consult for information. I mean, we live in an age where you could Google anything and get 500 different answers, and they might all be different, but whatever. But I appreciate somebody taking the time and reaching out to me, and I'm lucky and grateful that I have an opportunity to share what knowledge I've acquired with others. So yeah, if someone reaches out to me, it's an honor for me to reply.
I want to ask quickly, because we touched on it a little bit, and some of the challenge when you are teaching or learning different calisthenics things is the way that you scale them back and progress them is not nearly as straightforward as it is with, say, using some type of external weight. Like, you can always just grab a lighter dumbbell or a lighter kettlebell. You can always add or remove plates from a barbell. And scaling calisthenic movements, it in a lot of ways becomes a slightly different movement, because you're dealing with lever lengths and how much you're loading into certain positions. So I guess, what are some of the biggest advices? What's some of the best advice you have for people that struggle with knowing how to progress and scale through different calisthenic movements?
I mean, this is a fantastic question. And just to elaborate on what you said, right, the bottom line is this. If I am training with external resistance, whether it's a barbell, a dumbbell, a kettlebell, or an isolation machine, I can adjust the load by increasing the pounds. I pick up a heavier dumbbell, I lower the pin on the weight stack and increase my resistance. When I'm training with body weight, I can't adjust the weight from set to set, because the body weighs what it weighs, and I can't change how much it weighs from set to set. So instead of changing the object that's being moved, whether it's a barbell, dumbbell, kettlebell, isolation machine, or my own body, when it's my own body, I can't change the object being moved. So I have to make adjustments to the exercise rather than adjustments to the load. So in terms of scaling and progression, and regression for that matter, there are certain types of things that we can work on. One of them you already mentioned. You mentioned the leverage. You mentioned the length. If you have a longer lever, it's going to be more difficult. This is why it's easier to do a kneeling push-up, a push-up on your knees, than it is to do a regular push-up, because the body is longer for the regular push-up. That is one of the big principles in progressive calisthenics, is that leverage, that length of the body. You could take it from a push-up. You could apply it to a human flag. When you got that full press flag extended from a pole, that is harder than if you have your body tilted slightly vertically because the length of the body is longer. So in a way, one could argue that it is harder to gauge, but in a way, one could argue that there's a certain artistic, almost improvisational element to it, and we have to tune into our senses maybe a little bit more than just the numbers. So we have to change these exercises. We can talk about leverage. We can talk about weight to limb ratio, right? How much weight is in our limbs? I'm still doing that push-up, right? I was talking about before. First I'm on a knee push-up. Now I'm doing a regular push-up. If I put my feet on an elevated surface, now less of my weight is in my feet and more of my weight is in my hands. I just affected change in the weight to limb ratio. We can affect change with range of motion too. Why is a muscle up harder than a pull-up? Well, you're not just pulling your chin over the bar, you're pulling your entire body over the bar. So all these principles of progression, leverage, weight to limb ratio, range of motion, all these things are how we scale, progress, or even regress an exercise. As a good rule of thumb, we want to challenge ourselves. So if I know I can bench press 225 for 10 reps and I'm training in a capacity of progressive resistance, over time I'm helping to get that 10 rep 225 pound bench press to 10 reps at 235. Well, maybe I can't look at it in the same way with my push-ups, but if I'm capable of doing 50 two-arm push-ups and I'm capable of doing 5 one-arm push-ups on my right hand, I can ultimately seek to maybe bridge the gap by getting in time up to 10 push-ups one arm on my right hand. So it's not that it's harder to gauge it, it's that we're paying attention to changes in the movement rather than changes in the external load.
Yeah, I like that, and it does encourage and almost force some greater body awareness.
100%.
Which is one of the beautiful things of a calisthenics-focused training program.
I mean, calisthenics, I'm a strength training guy, I do calisthenics because I want to get stronger. But the nice thing about calisthenics is in practicing it, my balance has also gotten better. My muscular awareness has also gotten better. I've needed to maintain a degree of flexibility so that I can do some of the moves that I do. So even when you're talking about a realm of calisthenic strength training, you have this marriage of strength and mobility and balance. Take an exercise like a pistol squat, right? Pistol squat is a calisthenics classic. A pistol squat is a perfect fusion of strength and flexibility and balance. Strength, you got to be fucking strong to do it. You can't do a pistol squat unless your legs are strong. Flexibility, you have to be able to keep that non-squatting leg above ground while you descend into the bottom range of motion. And balance, you're doing the whole damn thing on one leg. So of course you have to have balance when you do it. It's a perfect fusion of all of them. And these are all things in our humanity and in our physicality and in our movement that we should seek to embrace and that really can work together. That whole spatial awareness element comes into play when you're doing calisthenics training as well. When I teach human flag to people, and I've had the honor and the privilege of teaching human flag to hundreds of people all over the world, spanning 5 continents and multiple countries. And one of the things that people have a hard time with it is, yes, the strength, but also the spatial awareness. When you're doing it, you don't know how it feels to keep your body suspended horizontally with only 2 points of contact on a vertical pole, supported by just your hands on this pole, until you've actually done it. So even guys that are strong enough have a hard time with the spatial awareness, that proprioceptive element of it. And the other myth about the human flag, of course, is that it's just a trick, and that it's just spatial awareness, because the other thing is you got to be pretty damn strong to do it. So all these things come together and work so harmoniously, and ultimately, that's what I love about bodyweight training so much, is it brings everything together so nicely, and it's almost like an art form. You know, one of the things that you do when you train body weight, you know, you probably do this too, is you walk down the street and you're sizing things up. And you're like, okay, I could do a pull-up off of that. I could do a lever off of this. I could do a muscle up off of that. And you size things up, and the world becomes your gym. It's a lot of fun.
You know, switching gears here, and I guess it's the last thing I'd like to ask you about before we begin to wrap up here, is also in preparing for this, I came across an article that I read a long time ago of yours, and it's something that I revisited. And it's on the PCC blog, and it's called "I'm Not an Athlete," and it talks about how you know, just because someone's working out, regardless of what level they're at, we shouldn't call them an athlete, and it's because they're, you know, an athlete's goals and aims are different than those of us that enter the gym. This really resonates with me because in a lot of the writing that I do refer to people as athletes, but I also agree so much with the point that you present in this, and I think in revisiting it, I'm probably going to stop referring to people as athletes, but the reason for doing so is to, I guess, recognize that if people are in the gym and taking some big commitments toward themselves, you want to recognize that instead of referring to people as, I don't know, clients or trainees or something like that. Like calling someone an athlete feels like a recognition of the commitment and the hard work that people put in, but it also, I agree now that it does, I guess, diminish the journey of athletes that are competing for a competitive endeavor. Well, and I just be curious to hear your thoughts on those kind of conflicting points of view.
Well, number one, semantics are semantics. Right. You know, try disputing the use of the Oxford comma before and in a series of listings, and you're going to get two people that want to kill each other. So I do understand that semantics are semantics. However, we talked about being true to you, and we talked about even if we wear different masks or hold different positions in life, we have to be true to ourselves. Right. And I myself am a personal trainer. I'm a fitness enthusiast. I am many, many different things in this world. I'm a father to one person. I'm a son to another. I have a lot of things going on. And one thing that I am is a fan of the English language. So just to clarify, I understand that language does change. Obviously, we don't sit here talking like Chaucer or like Shakespeare. English language has changed over the centuries, as well it should. I'm particularly thrilled that the word dough, as coined by Homer Simpson, is now in the Oxford English Dictionary. So I do love that language has changed over the years. But this particular one is something that I am sensitive about. There's a few that I'm sensitive about. In the article, I talk about how people use the word literally to mean figuratively. You know, I talk about
I'm sensitive to that one too.
Well, you know what? They actually changed the definition of literally to mean not literally. Like this happened.
To mean literally the opposite.
Yeah, that's right. They've changed the definition of literally to mean literally the opposite of what literally really means. Yeah. So this is the world we live in. And I found myself, as somebody who's involved in fitness circles, hearing this word athlete getting thrown around. You know, someone showed up at 6 a.m. and ran a flight of stairs. That's great. I am so fucking thrilled that this person did that. I appreciate anybody who makes an effort to anything. And when I take exception to the gratuitous use of the word athlete, I in no way, shape, or form mean to downplay anyone who's making any efforts. Most of the people that train with me are not doing muscle-ups and human flags. Most of the people that train with me were working on basic stuff because these are people that took time out of their busy day, out of their busy life, because they value fitness and they want to get stronger, healthier, help themselves, and feel better. And that's great, but that doesn't make someone an athlete. I myself am not an athlete. I work out, but it doesn't make me an athlete. You know, I also love to cook. I cook all my meals. I cook it up. I source ingredients at the farmer's market. I cook dinner for my friends. I just had a great barbecue. I had some people over. If you're ever in New York, let me know. I'd love to have you over and cook you a meal. But I'm not a chef. I don't go through a restaurant's budget, plan a menu, source ingredients, and serve it and present it to paying customers. I love to cook, but I'm not a chef. I love to work out, but I'm not an athlete. An athlete is someone who competes in a specific discipline. You know, I had a good friend of mine, a guy named Phil Ross, who is also a Dragon Door author, who is a beast, who actually has been a competitive martial artist for many, many years. He reached out to me after I wrote that article, and he was like, I'm so glad you wrote this thing. He's like, I don't even consider myself an athlete anymore. I was like, Phil, I consider you an athlete. And he was like, no, I don't compete anymore. I work out, I train, I do my martial arts, I do my strength training, I do my kettlebells. I mean, the guy's an animal. But he's like, I'm not a competitive athlete at this point. So we have so many disciplines that refer to people as athletes because they show up and work out. And it's amazing to show up and work out. That's what I do. And I love it, and it makes me super happy. But I'm not going to perpetrate that I'm going through spring training or anything like that. The people that are athletes are involved in a competitive discipline where the goal is to excel in that discipline. An athlete's goal isn't the same as my goal. My goal is to be strong and to be fit. Their goal is to be the best at this discipline that they can be so they can advance their status, their ranking, or their career. So when I say I'm not an athlete, that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. I'm a dude that works out. I'm a dude that's into fitness. I'm a dude that helps other people be into fitness. But I consider athlete to be in a different class. So that's my explanation of that article in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I agree with all of it too. You know, it's funny. I find myself struggling to reconcile two different things because I don't consider myself an athlete anymore either, and I'm usually pretty clear about that. But then when it comes to I really just do it when I write because I feel like I want to find a term that recognizes the commitment that people have to their journey while you know, without sounding too generic. So maybe we just need to invent we need to invent a word in the spirit of, you know, the English language evolving. I think we just need to invent a word for
So if you guys are out there listening, if you can think of a word that means fitness enthusiast, but you know, a little less syllables than that one, let us know in the comments. Shoot Justin a message, shoot me a message. I want to know what's a word we can use to refer to people who are committed to fitness, to people that show up at 6 a.m. that morning and they do their pull-ups and they do their burpees and they do their push-ups and their squats and lunges. What can we call these people that aren't necessarily technically athletes, but that are down with the cause, that are working hard, that are training hard? You know, I mean, sociologists do it all the time. We could just make up a new word. You know? We got enough people using it. Like dough, it will wind up in the dictionary. So let's see what happens.
It's gonna be a project of mine. I'm gonna start crafting a word. I think, you know, start asking around.
I love it. I always wanted to invent the word.
I'll keep you updated. Nice. You know, I guess quick answer, what's the one thing that you feel like holds people back?
You know, that's I really appreciate how good your questions are, and a question that good deserves a pretty deep answer. But I would have to say that I think the one thing that holds people back more than anything is themselves. You know, people like to make excuses. People like to put the blame on other things. But really, the thing that holds anybody back is themselves. Like we were talking about before, I believe in 100% accountability for your successes as well as for your losses. And if we can take ownership of the things that we do in the day or the things that we choose to do in the day, then we'd find that anyone can find the time to do anything. Look, there's 24 hours in a day. People that say I don't have time to work out, they do have time to work out. I'm a single dad. I work, I travel, I write, I have 3 jobs, I have a lot going on, and I make the time to train. Now, if I can make the time to train, then you can make the time to train, because everybody can make the time to train, because we all have the same amount of hours in the day. We just have to analyze what we choose to do with those hours. So if somebody says to me that they don't have time to work out for 20 minutes and they've been on Facebook for 20 minutes, then it's just a question of their priorities. Maybe they could spend that 20 minutes working out instead of checking their Instagram feed. Maybe they can't. And if they can't, then it's themselves that's holding themselves back.
Beautiful. And then I guess, the final question before we wrap up here is just to bookend it. We started with the always something to work on. And I also like to equally focus on always something to celebrate. And I guess this goes back to the positivity piece. So what's one aspect of your journey that you I guess would like to acknowledge yourself for, that you're really proud of?
I mean, it's going to get away from fitness, but the thing I'm most proud of in this world is being a dad. I'm most proud of my son. He does so many amazing things that I can't do. We were at a skate park the other day, and he shot and edited a video of him skating on my phone in like 2 minutes. I'm a guy who struggles with using Gmail, and he was just in this talent show in his school doing a ventriloquism act. It's like so old school. No one does ventriloquism anymore. And he's the thing I'm proudest of in this entire world. And that's something to celebrate for me. Is every day I have him in my life, and that's what I'm grateful for. And to give a fitness answer, I'm grateful for anybody who wakes up in the morning and does anything physically, and that's true too. It's a big world, and there's a lot that we can really celebrate, and there's a lot that we can really be grateful for. And in regards to celebration, we should all be celebrating anybody that gets involved in a fitness journey, whether we want to call them athletes or not. I know Breaking Muscle has a lot of people in the Olympic lifting and the kettlebell community, and we did this interview doing bodyweight strength training, but the truth is we all have more in common than apart, and that's something else we can celebrate. We're all seeking the same thing, and no matter what modality you choose to employ or what multiple modalities you choose to employ, we're all in the same game here, and we're all just seeking to make improvement within ourselves and seeking to make improvement with the people that we interact with, and that's what I want to celebrate too. So again, great question.
Yeah, beautiful. So just to wrap up, are there any places you'd like to point people? You've got articles all over, obviously the books. Is there anything else that we want to mention? We'll link to all of this kind of stuff too. So
yeah. Look at what I've written for bodybuilding.com, right? thedragondoor.com. You could click on PCC blog. The books, the website, Facebook, Danny Kavadlo. I have 2 pages. Like the page because the other one I don't really update. And I made myself a promise. This is how big my aversion to technology is. But I made myself a promise, and now I'm going to say it. So I'm going to have to do it. That I got to get on Instagram this summer because I'm an idiot for not being on it. I'm missing out on connecting with a lot of great people that I want to connect with. So. Yeah, okay, I better do this by the time this thing airs.
All right, so
hit me up, man, and DannyTheTrainer.com, hit me up on all that stuff.
All right, Danny. Well, I just I like to finish with an acknowledgement, just to thank you for coming on and giving the time, but also an acknowledgement for the biggest thing that jumps out at me is the simplicity with which you present everything, not only on the technical aspects, but your ability to just get right to the core of everything that you're teaching, be it some of this bigger lifestyle and mindset stuff, or the real important technical details of a movement. I just want to acknowledge you for that and say thank you for doing this.
My pleasure. I really appreciate being on here, and we got to do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Yeah. Alrighty. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, guys.